John's doing when he made fun of about the Addams family. Christina Ricci is Wednesday Addams, which you don't care about.
Lionel Richie?
Well, he's dancing on the ceiling, but that's not who we're referring to.
All night long.
All night long?
All night long. And the father to reality star Nicole Richie, of course.
That's right.
Yes, that's an important thing.
Yeah, from The Simple Life, along with Paris Hilton.
With I think it's Netflix cooking star Paris Hilton.
That's right.
Show on Netflix that she's cooking food. She actually, it's a good
not her first streaming video.
Yeah, the episode with her and Demi Lovato is actually quite a fun watch. It's probably the only episode worthwhile watching. So she and
Demi Lovato, let me check my Magic 8 Ball whether or not I'm going to watch that. Doesn't fucking look like it. So.
Oh, for sure, man. It's gonna be great.
All right, we'll see you guys later.
Yeah. Okay. So we're done talking about reality shows. You guys missed that segment, so we just wrapped that. So we're gonna roll into another show.
What about whoa! We have to talk about the girls from New York. Fine. Carry on.
Anyways, folks, welcome to the Sidekick Show. We're a minute in, and we just finished talking about old school reality TV. The heyday before social media hit. So Paris Hilton, Nicole Richie, Kim Kardashian, was she part of that generation?
No, she was. Fun fact: she was Paris Hilton's personal assistant back in the day before she became famous. So that's how she got her start. She was the PA.
I question why you have all this knowledge too.
This is why you bring me to the pod. Wait till I talk about the gentleman random trivia I know. This is great.
Yeah. So anyways, this is, if you're not sure, this is the Sidekick Show. And we are here to talk about the gentleman. So I've brought two other gentlemen here with me. Rob and Stu from last week. That were on the episode here and there. They kind of swap places once in a while. So we'll see if that happens tonight.
No. Actually, let me address that. So because I did get a fair number. I love it.
Okay, sorry, go ahead.
It's okay. I did get a fair number of private messages regarding my quick exit last week. So first of all, big thanks to Tim and to Stu. What happened was, for those who don't know, very long story short, my son had surgery at Sick Kids a week before last, because that's when Sarah filled in and went on a whole weird rant on Lindsay Lohan stuff. And then last Monday during the show, I got an urgent message from my wife saying we have to rush him to the ER to do some tests. So all is good. Everything's fine. The tests turned out to be great, but that's why I had to vacate pretty quickly. But a lot of people did end up reaching out, just wanting to make sure everything's fine. So thank you for the messages. Everything's good. No COVID, so we're good.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. And you also forgot to mention that during the Mean Girls podcast, I came out as the supreme champion of Sarah's emoji game, winning the final goal.
It's not that I forgot to mention it. I just didn't really want to.
After Stu went like 4 for 4, and then I took it in the last 5th kick, or whatever you want to call it.
I had to let John win because my bookies. I was under a lot of debt, so I had to throw the game.
It's like you're an NHL player.
Well, man, more like football in Asia. That's a big deal when it comes to players taking dives. So I was told by my bookie to let John win in the last kick. So therefore, I played dumb. No one was the wiser.
No, you're right. In that episode, no one was wiser.
Get out of town. All right. Anyways, Rob, we got so new stuff at the store. I'm gonna actually let Andre take that because I was lazy today and I didn't look everything up. But we did post the new comic releases, trade paperback releases coming out on our Instagram and Facebook. And I'm sure I'm forgetting something that's coming out.
Well, the big Batman new Yu-Gi-Oh.
Yeah, Batman 89 #1 limited series. I think 6 issues, and I think someone that worked on the movie is writing it. I don't remember. Rob might know. No, all right. Rob doesn't know. Anyways,
well, I could quickly find out, but being as a person who maybe co-owns a store, one would think that would be something that you would remember. But who am I to judge?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. So take it away, Rob, with your news. I think he's got like a bunch of stories to cover.
Well, no, I don't.
Or a story.
Yeah, so actually, thanks, John.
What up, everybody in the chat? Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, now in news that John has set up, Clancy Brown has signed on for John Wick 4, which is actually true, but we're not talking about that. Listen, there's actually a fair amount of news that came out in the last week, but I think we'll likely cover a lot of that in the, hey, what did I miss? Today, I kind of wanted to focus on something that we may talk about in a separate show or episode down the line. There's some huge news broke today. As you may or may not know, James Tynion IV, who is the current writer of Batman, the main Batman line, has been with DC for, it's got to be about 10 years or so now. He was reading Detective Comics before that. He has quit. He up and left DC Comics. His last Batman issue, I can't remember, I think it's 141 or so, or is that right? 140. Anyways, it comes out in November. Then Joker issue number 14 is out in March. He still has one title with Black Label that will be produced, but he has decided to move on from DC and will be essentially putting all of his new material, his creator-owned properties, on Substack. Now, before we get into Substack, I will say that he has Something Is Killing the Children with Boom Studios, which has been optioned for a movie right now through Netflix. I think Mike Flanagan, who did The Haunting of Bly Manor and Hill House, he is going to be producing that. As an aside, there actually is a new Mike Flanagan, I think it's Monday Mass or Midnight Mass trailer dropped on Netflix today, but you can check that out yourself. So anything that James Tynion has with Boom Studios will be staying with Boom Studios, and I think he's got something going with Dark Horse Dynamite as well. But Substack is this new medium that seems to be really growing with a lot of creators. There's a lot of comic book writers and artists who are teaming up and releasing new creator-owned IP through Substack. And if you're not familiar with what it is, it's kind of like you pay what you want subscription model for newsletters, for classes. However, if you want, it's kind of like a throwing in Kickstarter. If you want the full Monty, you want everything, the newsletters plus the comics that come out, it's $7 or $20 a month. Each creator will set their own price. $7, I think, or $9 US a month is James Tynion's. He released a big, long, massive posting about it. He was given 2 contracts, one from DC, one from Substack, and he decided to go the digital route with Substack. At some point, these comics will be published physically. No idea when. But that coincides with huge news that came out yesterday that Scott Snyder is essentially leaving DC as well. He is taking his books to Comixology. He has 8 new titles that will be released through Comixology. We'll be working with everybody from Jock to Francis Manipul to Greg Capullo, releasing 8 new titles through Comixology. And then I think about 2 to 3 months later, each of those issues will then be released through Dark Horse. They're going to be doing the printing for it. So this is a kind of a huge shakeup in the comics world that a lot of these creators are saying, you know what? We're at a moment now where content providers, whether it's Hulu or Netflix or whatever, are optioning a lot of the characters and stories that we're creating. Why should we be limited to a lack of cheddar from Marvel and DC when they're optioning and buying our own creator-owned content? So they're taking it to the independents. So that's a lot of a dump right now of information of what just happened like the last 24 to 48 hours. John, what is this as a retailer? What does this mean for you? Like, how does that impact you? Do you think that's really cool that they're going this route? Or is it kind of a weird paradigm shift that's happening in the comics world right now?
Yeah, I don't know. As a retailer, it's we're gonna have to wait and see if we're included in this or not. You know, maybe we'll get cut out. Who knows? With some of the Kickstarter releases and things like that going on, they usually do have some type of retailer option. So, but it is interesting that he's stepping away and making a big deal out of quitting DC. Like, I think it's cool that people will be able to access these creator-owned projects with, you know, all the money goes directly to them, and certainly subscription-based model would be ideal for them. Like if they're getting, you know, however many people subscribing to, they call it a newsletter, right? And I guess the newsletter is going to feature content that they can get straight to their fans. But something about comic books, it's people want the paper and stuff like that. So I'm not super concerned right now because digital comics have been going on for a while. They are an option right now, and some people do take the option. So we definitely did lose some customers to that option, but we've also gained a lot because sometimes people check them out on digital and then they want the paper version and things like that. And almost I always like to say comic books are like collecting you know, like records or going to see movies and stuff like that. And sure, those things might become lesser or become extinct at some point, but it's got a novelty as well. I do question him like shunning off DC or Marvel or any of these creators, kind of going, I'm not going to do those guys, and walking away. Like they have to build up a big enough name that they can actually walk away from this. And I think Stu made a point that, that leaves room for the new up and comers to come in. But if you've ever tried to, like, I've been selling comic books for a long time. If you ever tried to sell a book that is not mainstream, there's only a smaller market that is willing to go into that. Either they really trust you, or they are a person that collects a lot of small market books. So they might have already been wise to this type of game. So it's not really going to make a huge impact, but who knows? But you have to do, like, it's almost like when, like, movies, you'd have to do the big studio movie to get the clout to do your smaller indie movies, right? So I don't know if that's just clickbait that he's like, oh yeah, quit DC, it's done, that type of thing. So yeah, I guess it remains to be seen how it's really going to affect our bottom dollar.
Right. So Stu, do you think though that this now is this a part of the domino effect with what happened with DC in March of 2020, ditching Diamond Comics? Marvel has now gone forward and said we're no longer going to be distributing. Like, is this now a complete shift? And do Marvel and DC now have to maybe relook at their contracts and how they pay their creators for coming up with original IP, or maybe even like Ed Brubaker taking an existing character and tweaking him to make him all new? Should they be looking at changing how they do business?
Well, I think they're going to have to. But in terms of just like fashion, old is new again. We are old enough to remember when newsletters was the thing that happened back in the day when the internet first came out. You subscribed to a newsletter, and that would come into your email back before the internet was very accessible. You would get these newsletters that you'd circulate amongst friends, or you'd find out someone, and then they would send you a newsletter, whether it was weekly, bi-weekly, or monthly, and that's how you would obtain the knowledge or that insider, whether it was sports analytics or whether it was a news column. And you see now whether it's new, like if you look at media itself, like it's just not just the writers of comics, but mainstream sports writers are now moving to this model.
Yeah.
Stratechery is one of the blogs who does a really good job and talks about it too. The founder moved to this model as well. And he, again, found it to be very useful. And a lot of high CEOs and whatnot pays him to get this weekly, bi-weekly newsletter sent out. So, it doesn't seem like this is going to be, something that is going to go away. Because frankly, if you look at the model, and this is something we talked about before, is that we talked about how the middleman is being cut out, but also the back-end deals that were happening. So it's not, the next union arbitration between the Writers Guild of America and the STAG, and all these people are going to be fighting for these residuals that, the studio's basically been, hiding the shell game. It's like, we're not making money here, but what they're doing is basically funneling money into different areas, which is what a lot of Scarlett Johansson's arguments about, going, hey,
sure,
you're not making money at the theater. So to your point, there will be a big fight coming soon. It's just a matter of, like anyone, can these people figure out and argue that the revenue from this is worth the money that they feel they should get. But it is plaguing the comic book industry for sure, because someone writes a comic book, a writer takes their ideas and puts it onto a script for a movie. The comic book writer gets nothing. The script writer gets all the money, and then they carry on, right? Yeah. So because you've seen all the writers talk before about cherry picking the best stuff from comics all the time for their
all that
their
IP.
Movies.
Yep.
For IP. So
well, so not only, like I said, not only is it James Tynion, not only is it Scott Snyder, I mean, Jonathan Hickman has come out. He's also moved to Substack. So we don't know. I think he's left a lot on the table with what's going to happen with his X-Men books. It is a very interesting idea. My first reaction was, well, what the hell does this mean for Image? Because Image is known as a creator-owned line. Like, they retain the rights of their IP. It's very interesting that, we don't see a lot of Image talent kind of shifting to this model right now. It's really only kind of the big two. But I am surprised that these other, like Snyder has done stuff with the Image, and so has Tynion. So I'm kind of surprised that they're going to this tertiary model, I guess you can say.
But let's say before, when Louis C.K. was before the whole thing. He was doing $5 comedy shows, right?
Right.
He was streaming from a model. He was big enough and established that he would then put it on the internet for $5, pay $5, and he cut out the middleman. It was basically directly to him. He fronted up all the money to record, film, and whatnot, and he set up a website, and then boom, you could buy it directly from him without all the streaming sites. So this is not out of the realm. It's just a matter of infrastructure and what people can do. Right now, that makes sense. You don't have to print books. You don't have inventory. You just pay as you will, and that goes directly in the pockets of the writers. So I don't foresee it going away. But to John's point, we will see the special edition bound books at the end of it. So they're going to do the digital. And if it works well, we're going to sell this book at the end. And if you want it, you buy it. So
yeah, well, John had posted up an image today of a new series, 3 World, 3 Moons with Mike Del Mundo. Well, that's written by Hickman, and that's what's going to Substack. So John made an interesting point about, listen, there's digital, and it's on the comics, digital or physical. I'm a guy who, when I went to get back into comics after being gone for like 20-something years, tried the digital model and enjoyed it for like the first 30 issues. And then I went back to physical because there's something about having tactile, an item in your hand reading it. That's why I like physical books. I got rid of my Kobo e-reader or whatever I had. I went back to the physical model. So here's hoping that these books, they do find their way into physical. Again, we know the Snyder's Comixology run of his 8 titles will get printed through Dark Horse, but it definitely is. This is the first. These two artists are the first big ones to drop, including, I guess you can say, Hickman. There's more on the way, including some rumors about Bendis as well. So we shall see what happens with Marvel and DC talent going forward.
But Rob, basically what this is going to do is it's going to cut out all the clearance comics at the end when people buy a bunch of books and they're like, yeah, this is not good. So it's going to be, from a consumer standpoint, good as well, because how many times have we bought comics? And if Andre was here, he'd be shaking his fist at writers who start writing something and then bail halfway through it. I have tons of comics where I'm issue 3 in of 6, and the guy who writes is like, yeah, I'm not going to do anymore. And I was like, a left hole in the bag. I think everyone can remember a feeling when they're like, wait, but Kevin Smith said he was going to do another comic, and then he didn't do another. Yeah. Like Black Cat Spider-Man. We got hooked in with Daredevil, his run on Daredevil. I'm like,
Guardian Devil,
You're going to do another one, and then didn't do another one. So there is plus and minuses. From John and Andre's perspective, I can imagine that at least weeds out. You're like, well, if I just buy the trade paperback that's all complete, at least I can sell the story, as opposed to, Andre can talk about J.J. Abrams and not finishing his Superman title, or like how many of, I know this because that's what he, said last time. So this is a thing where it's gonna only the cream of the crop's gonna rise, and then that, just from a retailer perspective, probably would be good in terms of only the best stuff's going to be sold in a trade paperback, and John doesn't have to. Those who don't know, John and Andre has a huge book that comes in, and then they go through and figure out what they have to order. That is the system that most of these comic distributors go. It's a book. They look through it. They're tastemakers. They figure out what works and what doesn't work. They pick what they think the store is going to sell based on it's a lot of
pick or gamble, whatever you want to call it.
I think I'm more.
That's how we used to order videos in the video stores. Like, well, how many copies of Legends of the Fall should we order? Like, is it going to be really big? I don't know.
And Rob, a concierge service. They are tastemakers and figure out what people want. And if this is allowing them to like cut out a lot of the Ouija board stuff, then it's troubling. It's scary because people are unknown. But that just means that you have less crap to buy, and you're guaranteed digital. It's all done, and here's a completed project. Some people might wait to have it all done and buy it all at once, because really what's the monthly stuff is holding us back is because it's just has to be printed. But if it's all digital, maybe it's faster. It could be 2 months and the whole story's done.
Right? So as opposed to carrying 20 issues, I just carry the collected omnibus, like Rob's mentioned a lot of times. The omnibus is a rising in collectability, and just like people like to buy that brick of a book and put it on their shelf, and it also becomes a decoration or badge of honor or whatever, how many books you got on there.
Which, speaking of which, for those who are breaking news I saw today, if those who are wondering, one of the biggest whales. A whale is an omnibus that it's hard to find. It was the Death and Return of Superman omnibus. It was printed 2 years ago. They did a first printing. Then a second printing was with the black cover, and you could actually, if you remember, they had that fold out gateway cover where you would see the entire right? That was that black book printing was the only one, the omnibus, that had it in fold out. Anyways, they're reprinting it because you can now, if you're going to go to eBay or find it for somebody who owns it, they're going to sell it to you for $600 because it's like it's out of print really quickly. They're coming back in stores in March of 2022. So John, get on that, because that Death and Return of Superman omnibus is hot property. So
first edition.
Thank God
it's not going to be a first edition, but you'll be able to own it in your collection.
Yeah, so. Thank goodness. Yeah. So that's it for this. I'm sure we'll be talking about this again in the future. There's this is changing up things, but that's, all we're going to talk about today. For that news stuff, I'm pretty sure that we'll have more with, Hey, What I Missed with Pat, Chris, John, and myself on Thursday. But for now, gentlemen, how are you?
Yes. Hello, gentlemen. So thanks everyone for sticking with us. I know that might have been a little weird for you guys, but we want you guys to know what's going on in our world and hopefully your world as well. So let's talk Guy Ritchie and his movie, The Gentleman.
First of all, can we just say John practiced that name a few times before we came on air, and I'm very proud of you, buddy. You got it right this time.
Yeah. Don't worry. I'm going to get it wrong in a second. So let's
Guy Ritchie.
He played for the Montreal Habs. I don't know.
Yeah. So anyways, The Gentleman, originally released in January 24th, 2020. So a little bit before everything got locked down. So a lot of us missed it. I think on a previous episode, Rob had mentioned he thought it went straight to Netflix, and Stu corrected him that it did go to theaters. And I think a couple people in our live chat did actually go see it in the theaters. I missed it. I think last thing I saw was Bad Boys in early January.
Don't say that's what you saw, because you keep telling everybody that's what you saw. It's like your badge of honor.
Okay.
Like, the last movie I saw before lockdown.
The last movie you saw was Bad Boys.
I think there's 3 movies on people's list if they were actively going to see movies. It's Bad Boys, or it's I guess maybe The Gentleman, or
Tenant.
No, Tenet came back after, but before the lockdown. What was that other Pixar movie where the kids quest to find their dad, the other half of their dad or something?
No, that wasn't. I know which one. No, but it was Bloodsport. It had jumped into theaters for a week before it got pulled.
Yes.
Bloodshot.
Sorry, what did I say? Bloodsport? Bloodshot.
Yeah, you said Bloodsport. Okay, so then this movie then did come out. They accelerated the release to March 24th on home video and video on demand, and then other home video, actually physical copies on like April something. So it did get like fast tracked onto the home video, and so much so I do remember it popping up on Netflix and going, was like Rob, I thought it was a straight to Netflix thing, and I was like, how come no one talked about this? So I didn't end up watching it at the time until Stu brought it up, and I looked at the cast and I'm like, how did I not watch this?
This is in your wheelhouse. The movie, everything, John, is for you. This movie is built for you.
Yeah. So this is in the spirit of Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels and Snatch. So kind of like the third of those styles of movies. Cost them $22 million to produce, whatever you want to call it, and made $115.2 million. So it's still in the time when things made money at the box office. So let's talk about this movie. Onward. Here we go. Sarah's got it. Onward. I think that's the other movie that a lot of people saw. It was their last movie in theaters. So thank you, Sarah.
That was the Chris Pratt / Tom
Holland.
Tom Holland vehicle.
Yeah. Also great movie. Yeah.
It was a great movie. Yeah.
So The Gentleman. So let's. Should we just dive into talking about the cast?
Sure.
Whatever you want to do, John.
Yeah, so
we'll take advice from the chat too, but layer cake doesn't count, Lewis. Layer cake's not the same. Not Guy Ritchie. Come on.
Yeah. John, okay. Loosen up. Take a drink, buddy. Smoke a joint.
No.
Get into it. You like Mathew McConaughey.
Box of the bush. We're gonna do some
slurping while you were slurping that cup while Stu was giving his answer. So please continue.
Yeah. Anyway, okay. So let's talk about we should make Rob give us a summary of the damn movie. But I'm pretty sure y'all watched it. Great flick. We all recommend it. Oh, I do have a graphic of the.
Oh, do you have a graphic now?
I have a graphic of the Rotten Tomatoes score. So 75% on the taco meter. I don't know what it. And then 84% audience.
Is it Taco Tuesday?
Meter? Yeah, Taco Bell.
Anyways, 75% certified fresh, 84% audience score. So that's generally a pretty high rating for a movie that's been out for a little while, because it has a chance to kind of get balanced out and things like that. Snatch, I believe, has a very similar rating, and we'll talk about other Guy Ritchie movies later. So let's open it up with the cast. Who you like in this movie? We'll start with Rob.
Who don't I like in this cast? How about
Yeah,
that?
okay. Yeah, okay, go with that then.
What?
Okay,
I like
who's your
everybody.
favorite? Who's your favorite cast member, or just talk about the cast in general if you want?
Yeah, first of all, I think the cast does a fantastic job. I loved your boy Charlie Hunnam in this movie. I thought he was great. I'm a big Mathew McConaughey fan. Like, I feel like he definitely had a renaissance once he hit are you drinking that damn thing in? Once he hit True Detective. When he hit True Detective season 1, it was almost like a renaissance for McConaughey. I loved his portrayal in this movie.
Reconnaissance?
Reconnaissance. I will say though that like what's his name? Hugh Grant.
Yep,
Honestly, blew me away in this movie. Like, he was so different than anything that we've seen him do before. He was doing a much different accent than his normal English accent. He was a different part of Britain. I think he was pulling from. He was more of a Cockney accent. He was very flamboyant. He was hilarious. Like, as the movie, as the writer of a movie trying to lay this whole plot out. Like, I honestly loved his character and his portrayal of that character in this movie. Him and Charlie Hunnam have great chemistry, but if I was to pick one person, I'd have to give it to
Hugh Grant. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so Rob picks Hugh Grant. Stu, who would you give the MVP trophy to for this movie? Is it also Hugh Grant or
No, it's Charlie Hunnam.
Yeah?
Charlie Hunnam has done a lot of mistakes. And I remember him as a young, skinny boy playing guitar and Undeclared. So this is how I know. I knew him as a goofy British kid going around swooning women to the dorm, and I'm like, who's this kid? He's got something. And then
there's something about this guy.
And then he became this biker dude in some sort of TV show called Sons of Malarkey. And then that lasted for a long time. And then he did a few things. But no, Charlie Hunnam, this is really kind of the proper wheelhouse for him. He does a fantastic job in a supporting role. I don't think he would have pulled off the McConaughey role. I think McConaughey's role, it required a lot more work. But Charlie Hunnam, this and of course Pacific Rim, but do or dare. But Charlie Hunnam's the best.
Anyways,
no, don't besmirch Pacific Rim. I think Charlie Hunnam, and then a close second is Colin Farrell. I think as coach, he is perfect. Just all the mannerisms and everything, and even at the end with he's like looking at them, he's like 4.
Yeah.
Like he's like after killing the guy, he's like 4. I was like, oh God, Colin Farrell, thank goodness. Like, forget about. Thank goodness he's no longer in Harry Potter, and now we can maybe get him in a few more of these Guy Ritchie films because he's great. How about you?
Yeah. John? I was a little concerned, like the Charlie Hunnam. I didn't like the way they kind of like styled him, but that's probably because I'm used to the Jax Teller style character. They made him kind of look older.
He was very GQ.
Really,
he was
If you look at him, he does the press run for this movie at the time, and he still looks essentially like the Jax Teller character. So I guess they added the beard and added slick the hair back and put him in like big thicker clothes and stuff like that. So I was actually going to choose Colin Farrell as a coach. I just really love that character when he with the big. I always talk about those vintage glasses he has. I was like, yo, those are cool. Like they're really out there, but they're cool. And apparently they were one-off vintage from back in the day. I know some people in the chat were like, well, let's buy a pair, but apparently you can't.
You can't.
So,
no. You can buy the tracksuits. They were specially made for the movie, and then they distributed them after, so you can buy the tracksuit, but the glasses.
Man, I
do also want to say, I see.
Yeah, I was going to say anyone else. Yeah.
They're saying, as we did, Charlie Hunnam. They're saying McConaughey, Colin Farrell. But I do want to say a big shout out to Jeremy Strong as Mathew. Like, again, we've been watching. If you've watched Succession and you've been watching that on HBO, and you see that character and even his voice, he's got a very naturally deep voice. And then you see him in this role as Mathew. It was a minor role, I guess you could say, but I mean integral. But I thought he did a fabulous. I wasn't looking at Jeremy Strong. I was looking at another character, and I think that's big ups to him for that.
And another big shout out to Michelle Dockery. People who know her from Downton Abbey, but she's the only real female in this film, and she does a tremendous job. And she hangs with McConaughey and everyone else in every scene she's in. You really get the sense that she is,
she comes off as very, very powerful. Do you remember who was supposed to be originally cast in that part, Stu?
Tell us, John. Who?
I thought you would know.
I'll line you up. You're
the master of alternate casting. But I believe it was Kate Beckinsale. And then she had some issues, and she had to step out, and then they replaced her with her. So she did an amazing job. I'm pretty sure.
Well,
Kate
I'm happy
Beckinsale
that
I think she would have done a great job as well.
Well, Kate Beckinsale, she would have been, the death dealer herself. I don't know if she would have fit in. You'd have to put her in a different costume. But yeah, because the way you first see Michelle Dockery, it does remind you very much of watching her in the first film, and you're like, wait, doesn't that look like the costume
Underworld?
For Underworld, yeah, because she walks in with that dress or that pantsuit that's all in a one piece. But yeah.
What? How do you feel about Henry Golding, Stu? I know he gains really popular in Crazy Rich Asians, and I most recently saw him in Snake Eyes. But
you might be the only person. But yes,
and you did not see him. Did you watch him in Last Christmas, John?
Last Christmas is that another rom-com?
Yeah, it is the other rom-com.
Someone called my friend Tim Baratis.
Let me call Tim.
John, just take away your card. That's the one with Emilia Clarke from Game of Thrones. She plays. There's a whole romance between the two. I think that he did his job well. He was supposed to be the clear-cut antagonist, like the bad guy that you saw, and he did a really good job of being that character, just running around doing crazy things. So he wasn't given that much to do with, but the scenes he were in, he was really chewing it up and having a good time. So yeah, he's fine. He's fine. But it's not like I would give him a major Marvel franchise after that.
Yeah. It's not like you watch this performance and you're like, oh, that guy, we got to get him in a bunch of other stuff. So
we'll still look at the Paramount franchise. Oh boy.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
We'll see if that happens. Any other auxiliary cast members maybe we should cover, Rob? Was there any other kind of like side characters or guys in the background that maybe we should quickly mention before we watch?
I used to watch Legends of Tomorrow, and the guy, I can't remember his name off the top of my head. He played Firestorm. Sorry. Franz
Dremel or something like that.
Dremel, So he was in seasons 2 to 5 or whatever it was. So it was kind of cool seeing him in the background as one of the thugs, right? Well, I guess thugs, one of the kids under that group. You can go with Tom Wu, who was Lord George. I mean, that scene with him puking everywhere was awesome. I mean, that's not easy to be sitting there where you have the pipe of tape to the side of your mouth and you gotta be projectile vomiting, right? So you know what, we'll probably get into it when it comes to the movie, but I looked at this movie almost like as a play, right? I mean, it was written out to be very prose heavy. A couple of action scenes, but very prose heavy, and it was like a play. And I felt that everybody, right from your main cast to your mid-level to your auxiliary players, all did a fantastic job. Like I was completely, drowning in this world and enjoying all of it. And so I would say everybody did it. They did their job.
It's like a thing. It's like it comes together and immerses you in this gangster, like mobster world. So I guess we might as well. Yeah.
And one more shout out to Eddie Marchand, who was Big Dave. That's all difficult role, and the whole thing where him and Colin Farrell in the car together. That is acting.
You don't see it.
Acting. That's the whole. It's like here's your coffee, and like here's this situation. It was like
there's a pig over there, and you're gonna want to watch it.
No, there's a video here. I'm like, oh, this is such a good.
I was like, I hope they don't show anything because I don't know if I can deal with it right now.
It reminded me of Black Mirror, though. It reminded me of Black Mirror season 1, episode 1 with the Prime Minister. That's where that for me, I was like, oh, they did a bit of a homage to Black Mirror on that. So
yeah.
All right, John.
All right, cool. Yeah, so wonderful cast, like we said, very immersive. And that's is that one of Guy Ritchie's kind of trademarks that he just puts together like a really stellar cast, like Snatch, Lock, Stock, and Smoking Barrels, and we'll get into his other movies. So let's dive into our favorite scenes. So everyone in the comments, start shouting out your favorite scenes. Rob, do you want to take the pleasure of going first, picking your favorite scene or one of your favorite scenes?
Oh God, what am I gonna? I think, well, one of my favorite scenes, I mean, I have a few, but the one that immediately comes out is when Hugh Grant is talking about the story about how Dry Eye enters in and him and McConaughey are sitting at the desk, the table. They're talking about how Dry Eye is going to take over the business and this and that. Here's a big number, and you hear the clicking. And then he looks back at McConaughey and he clicks some more and he shows it to him. And McConaughey has the gun under the table and he shoots him in the nuts, right? And he's like, oh, who's the lion? I think Sarah did the quote earlier when the show first started about being a lion in the jungle. And who is it? And then Hunnam's like, no. That's not like, that's very fantastical. And he's like, okay. So maybe it was more like that to me was just like so funny, right? Because you're watching it. I'm thinking, holy shit, McConaughey went off the rails like his character. That's quite interesting because he was very self-centered and reserved in his exuberance and his violence, and then you see this and you realize it's all for show. This guy's just making this up, and I completely bought it, right, as the narrator of this story through Hugh Grant's eyes. So that for me, that scene made
I thought it happened. I was like, oh man, Henry Golding's out already. He didn't get to do nothing. Stu, so what's one of your favorite scenes?
The scene is after the cell phone pictures, and Ray, who throughout this film, you don't know what he's capable of doing yet. You don't know what he is or what he's done. And when he chases those guys in the alley, and then he's like, yeah, easy lads. I'm sure you're all like roadmen, gangsters, proper naughty boys. He's like, and all that. I think it was like bollocks or whatnot. It's like crazy, like all that bollocks. But and then he's like, but I come in peace. And then they like bring out the knives. He's like, it just all of a sudden, because he's wearing the jacket, brings out the machine guns, so shooting in the air, and all of them are like bounce. And the guy has his phone. He's like, here's the money. He's like, you're gonna drop that whole scene. Is just a perfect kind of showing where it's like trying to negotiate. Here's a stack of money for the cell phone. They're like, no. Here are these knives. He's like, fine. Here's the gun, and all of them drop it. So there was that nice kind of thing where you can see why Ray is trusted. It's one of those character building moments. You're like, why is he? Because up to that point, he's having these conversations with Hugh Grant, and you're like, is he the fixer? Is he anything?
Yeah.
Is he just
the guy that watches? Yeah. And then he has the muscle with him too. So you're like, oh, he's not the muscle. What is he? It's like the talker.
It's the combination of brains and brawn, where he was like, he's understands negotiation is first. Give them money. Money is no big deal. Then the kids then bring the gun out, and then I'm sure he would be prepared to move farther along as well. So it just gives the full Charlie Hunnam experience.
Yeah, that whole scene is just great, and all the other guys chasing the other kids, and then the guy's like, "Hurry up, come on!" and they're like watching the guy chase the other guy down, like speed it up, come on, wrap this up. So like,
but what precedes that? So it's funny that JB mentions a Pulp Fiction, because what precedes Stu's favorite is when they're all in the flat and they're talking, and they're there to get the girl, and it was very reminiscent of Pulp Fiction when they walk into that, and they're talking and like, who is this guy? Like that, like felt like almost like a homage, like a respect to Pulp Fiction. They just did it in their own way. So it's very interesting.
A British interpretation, yes.
Yeah. John, what was your favorite scene?
Yeah, so Sarah shouts out one of my favorite scenes, which was when the coach is beating up the kids in the bakery. Colin Farrell, this is our first introduction of him. He's standing in line. These like youths are like bothering him, and then he's just like shoving them around, knocking the knives out of their hands, and he's like teaching them. Like, I thought that was just hilarious that he's trying to teach them, and he's like, oh no, you got to be smarter, you got to come up with something good. And then he like basically is like, come and I'll train you, like almost like taking these I think he's rowdy boys, and
John, he was like, boys and girls slap, men punch, because they're all like trying to hit him, but they're all like slapping him. And he was like, there's a difference between a slap and a punch. And he was like, that's kind of in terms of the education they're teaching them, because knives is clearly not what the answer is.
Almost all the scenes with him I really liked, but the one that is really funny is the follow up to your scene. So the kid falls off the roof, and the foot chase begins, and then Colin Farrell brings the guy who's snitched on the thing,
Fuck.
and he fuck or something, and he climbs out of the trunk, and then he like falls off the thing again, and then Matthew McConaughey is just like, again, like this is becoming a habit. Like it's just
you might want to get some parachutes.
Parachutes,
because it's starting to become a really bad pattern here, Ray.
Yeah. Oh man, yeah. Like just the fact that paid off like a second time around was really good. So Lewis shouts out just the storytelling. I guess he means the Hugh Grant kind of telling the whole movie as a story. So we're not sure if we're watching the movie that he pitched or we're actually watching whatever.
McConaughey whole thing talking about the upperclassmen and like how he does the drugs and whatnot, and like the storage houses. There's a lot of very Guy Ritchie.
That's a Guy Ritchie trademark. And then Lewis mentions the scene where the two enforcers are taking the body out, and he's like call first or whatever. He's like, bad time. And then Hugh Grant's like, oh, I forgot to wash my hands, and he just kind of like takes off. So I don't know if there's any other scenes that we missed here. So Fraser's got the men fight with their heads. The whole the fight porn rap music video was pretty hilarious, and I thought those guys were going to get messed up, but it turns out like I don't know what type of gangster Colin Farrell is. Like freaking like he won the movie for me. Like all that, like I think people already mentioned it earlier when he takes out the two thugs at the end. He's like, now you owe me four favor, or now I guess I'm up one or something like that.
I've done 4 favors for you.
Yeah. All right, cool. So leading in from our favorite scene discussion, we'll jump into one of our trademarks is who died, or I'm adding an extra phrasing to, or who got it the worst. I'm pretty sure we know who got it the worst overall, but do you have someone that you thought died the worst or got it the worst, Rob?
This is interesting because I was really paying attention to all of the deaths and was wondering, and I was going to originally say the guy who fell off onto the tracks. But I think that the dude...
Because he gets run over after.
Right, yeah. But I think the dude, though, who first gets shot with the paperweight, right? When McConaughey's wife, she's goes, I'm going to put a bullet in his fucking head. And the guy's like, with a paperweight? And like that. And then she shoots it. And it hits him like square in the forehead. And he like turns around to look at Dry Eye, right? And he looks. And then you can see like the little dot. And then he dabs it and he's looking at it. It just looks like a little thing of jelly. Like you would think it was like a BB. That's what you kind of figured it was going to be. And then he just topples over. Like,
I thought it was going to fall off and it was going to be like nothing.
Yeah. I thought he got it the worst because I'm thinking at that moment, he's like, I think I just got shot. I think I'm okay. What? And he's dying. It's in his brain. And that to me is like, you're alive for at least 10 seconds wondering what the hell just happened. And then he's dead. So I'm going to give it to him because that made me laugh my ass off. So.
All right. So Rob nominates the baby bullet to the head from the paperweight gun. Stu, what do you got?
It's gotta be Lord George, man. The dude, all he wants to do is watch horse racing in Hong Kong. Dude gets offed outside at a pond, a koi pond. Dude just wants to,
by his restaurant,
have some dim sum in the morning, watch the ponies from Hong Kong. John knows all about this. Is John's work style. He gets up at a Hong Kong cafe, orders a tea, a hot tea, milk, and then toast with like the powdered like milk, condensed milk, and then sits there and bets on the ponies. This is what John does every Saturday morning. So Lord George gets it because of Dry Eye, just because he wants the power. Lord George was just keeping things locked down, man. He got him and his buddies got gunned down, for no reason. So for what? Just for Dry Eye, just to get knocked off himself.
For him to get murdered. Sarah shouts out the Jeremy Strong character who has to take a pound of flesh somewhere on his body, like that. That's pretty brutal.
But I think that's what you said was the most obvious as the person who got it the worst. Because I think
the most obvious is the guy who got Colin Farrell with the pig. That guy got it the worst.
But he didn't die.
He didn't die,
but he
didn't lose any money. There's some shame in that. But there's some drugs and some therapy that get you over it.
The fact that
But
Jeremy
at the end of the
Jeremy
day, he
Strong's
still got
character
laid.
not only is losing money, a lot of money, and he's also losing a pound of flesh, like an arm and a leg. Like he's gonna have a permanent limp or like a
I'm like, where could you
that
like
is-
take off your arm or like maybe
Yeah,
a calf or something
that's
like
the
that?
thing,
Yeah,
like,
Your
Yeah,
ass
for-
cheek.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I think for Big Dave,
Yeah.
he can wipe that stuff out, but
Yeah.
But maybe he
const-
doesn't. Maybe he starts
Yeah.
to question, did I enjoy it?
or maybe he enjoys it, and then that's not a bad thing.
And
Yeah,
that's
maybe
a
he
problem
does.
for him for
Yeah.
the rest of his life.
So you turn that frown upside down, John, and that's also not a bad thing anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He looks at bacon a whole
JB.
new way.
Yeah, JB shouts out the Russian kid off the balcony. How did he get tossed off the balcony again? They left the door open, and then I forget what happens. Does he just get shoved and then randomly tumbles off? I think the guy who fell off the bridge and got also run over by the train might have got it worse than him. But I guess my other answer would be Dry Eye, because he dies twice in the movie. I guess as a technicality, once he gets shot in the nuts, and the other one he just gets double shot by Mathew. But I think maybe Rob's right. The 22 to the head, as Gordon was saying, would not be good. Jonathan Yo agrees with me with the mental torture and the physical scars from the that one night with the pig, or one night in I don't know what you would call it, Hogtown or whatever you want to call it.
Hell comes to Frogtown instead of Frogtown. Is this what we're doing now?
Toronto's Hogtown. Let's not forget. So
That's right.
Toronto, don't take that nickname away from us, John.
Yeah.
The big smoking
Okay.
Hogtown.
Yeah. Oh, there you go. That's the title of that particular movie. I would not click that link. So before we go, we're going to talk about Guy Ritchie movies in general, and I think that's going to fill up the rest of our time. But right before I get to that, this movie, or this treatment or whatever, was back in October 2020, was optioned to become a TV series, I believe, with Miramax and Ritchie writing and directing and stuff like that. So apparently originally the script did start off as a TV series pitch. And Mathew McConaughey has done TV and
It
killed,
was not for him
killed
for
at
TV.
it.
No, it's
Okay.
it was originally written as Charlie Hunnam as the main character for TV.
Okay, yeah,
because
because
McConaughey came in as a movie, they basically swapped roles and gave.
Okay, well, both
McConaughey.
of those main actors and a lot of these guys. So Charlie Hunnam did come from Sons of Anarchy and a lot of TV shows, and Matthew McConaughey, True Detective, I believe, right?
One
so
time
do
he did TV.
Yeah, but he killed at it, right? So, Rob, do you think this is actually going to happen? Like, and is it a show that you would watch?
It says it's in pre-production still, right? I
Okay.
mean, that's what it's listed on Guy Ritchie's IMDb. The Gentleman TV series in pre-production, but until cameras start rolling, everything's in pre-production. Just making an announcement means it's in pre-production. So
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Do you think it's going to happen?
Will it?
Like,
No, sorry, I didn't. Yeah, I didn't. No, I don't think it will. To be honest with you, I don't think it will. I wouldn't be surprised if they maybe try to do a sequel out of this. I just don't see it coming. You know what? Pre-COVID, maybe. Post-COVID, not so sure.
I'm going to disagree with you, Mr. Godet.
Good.
I'm going to say
Okay.
it's going to happen because, frankly, streaming services will pay more for it, and it's a property. If it's 8 episodes, so like who knows what the theaters are going to make at this standpoint. If you can bank out 8 episodes into a TV series and make it prestige and maybe win an Emmy or something of that capacity, show it out there and see what happens. Because frankly, these actors aren't. If they're just living in London, how much money they're going to get anyways? The first movie was 22 million. You could probably get a bigger budget in terms of getting that out, but to that point, it was funny because McConaughey didn't even know that it was for TV and that Charlie Hunnam was supposed to be him till the press tour. And we found out, he was like, whoa, this is news to me. Like, why didn't anyone tell me? So, but yeah, I would imagine that this is perfect in line for what television needs to be going forward. You can need more social distancing. London is relatively cheap to film right now. They're trying to get stuff done. It's just a matter of McConaughey.
And I think Guy Ritchie films quickly too, right? He bangs out these movies fairly quickly, so it does line up with his style, I guess.
Well,
do you know
being
what they
married
do?
to Madonna, he had to learn to bang things out pretty quickly.
This guy taking shots at Madge, I guess you call it.
Like, because again, for those who don't know, what happens is that the script is done quickly and edited the day of many times. What Guy Ritchie does is he'll bring the actors together, they'll rehearse, do it on set, like on site. And if something doesn't work, he'll adjust it and give them new pages. Michelle Dockery said all the time, like, she would sometimes get pages the day of and like, here's the script. And she's like, okay. Like, they don't have any time of preparation. And what you're getting is basically sometimes on the fly script reads that they're doing, which makes it more frantic, which fits the style of Guy Ritchie in these films. So that is this unique style.
Can I just say though that when I was watching this movie the first time and I thought of it again today, I feel like we don't get enough of these original idea movies as much anymore because we do get drowned out by these big action pre-existing IPs, whether it's stuff taken from comic books or remakes of movies or remakes from television shows or whatever the case may be. It is so nice to see like a movie like this come out that we get an opportunity to enjoy, where it's an original story, kind of original. I mean, obviously they take liberties with other things and kind of put it into, but it was so enjoyable. And it's also small in its scale in that we're not dealing with heroin or cocaine drug dealers. Like, he is a weed dealer at the end, right? I mean, it's like they didn't have to go balls to the wall super action with like heroin and Colombians and this and that. It was self-contained story. It reminded me a little bit like the banter back and forth between Hugh Grant and Charlie Hunnam reminded me of of how the feeling I got when I would watch Glengarry Glen Ross, right? Which is, that movie was based on the play, but watching that and seeing these characters having this discord back and forth, it was just so refreshing. Do you know, like we're watching people have a conversation and I'm engrossed in the topic of conversation, and there aren't jets flying overhead or, laser beams.
Disagree, Rob. I want that to be Black Panther, Captain America, and Iron Man having these conversations in a room.
But it was just nice. It was a nice, like Stu would say, it was nice palate cleanser, right? It was just really nice to be able to enjoy something, take a break and watch a smart movie.
Yeah. I wonder who it's attributed to, that it seems that Guy Ritchie can do these types of things with, or doesn't get extravagant, and he gets almost, I guess you would call it a modest budget, and is able to produce something of such.
Well, that's why if they do the show, it's going to work because it's cheap and they're not doing science fiction. They're not green screening. It's like a bunch of people in a room filming and having dialogue, and you can jump to the next scene. So, if you're going to do something, this is the way to do it, and you're going to be able to social distance accordingly. And there's no, you don't have to wait for a team in Singapore to do your VFX. Or a team in Vancouver, a team in Montreal, a team in Burbank. Like, these movies now require 15 different VFX studios to basically do their special effects. This movie, there was probably zero special effects.
Maybe some blood.
Maybe the scene, actually, if you think about it, the scene where they're in the drug, the marijuana, I'm sure they probably made it look bigger, but really they probably cut it down. But used some VFX budget to make it look much deeper.
Yeah, but you also can use mirrors. Mirrors do the same thing. Like you could make that very practical as well. So
I'm sure they figured it out. But
yeah. Okay, so we're gonna wrap this up. If you guys have any final thoughts on the movie before we move on to just talking about Guy Ritchie movies in general, so JB shouts out Love Actually from Guy Ritchie. So we're gonna get into his other.
Wait, no. What he said is that it's not his taste. He prefers Love Actually.
Love Actually, which is a whole different movie where Hugh Grant's in.
Yeah, I was gonna say we'll talk about Love Actually another day. But so any final thoughts on The Gentleman, Rob?
I just want to say that the Hugh Grant stuff was fantastic. We talked about it in the last 3 podcasts where actors come on in like a few days of film and they just bang it out and leave. Hugh Grant had 5 days of shooting.
It was really
40
short, right?
pages. Right. Banged it all out. He had to make a cheat sheet and like figure it out. That cheat sheet got stolen somehow in his like overnight. He put his lines on the car before, and then someone stole his sheet or whatever. But I talk about Giamatti and before all these people phoning it in for a couple days work. Hugh Grant did not do that. He came in and was incredible for 5 days of work in it. And we have to appreciate his that. But yes.
Yeah. So that's any other thoughts, Stu, before we move on? And I'll kick it to Rob.
Jump to the
Rob. Anything else to wrap up The Gentleman?
No, okay. I'm just really happy with it. I might actually purchase it on Blu-ray now. Like, even though it's on Netflix, this is something I would watch again for sure.
Yeah, it's funny. So let's get into the discussion of is this your favorite Guy Ritchie movie? And I brought up the ratings for Snatch. They're kind of very similarly rated on Rotten Tomatoes, but maybe because this came out right before the pandemic and things like that, and not enough time has passed, so maybe it will get to that echelon. But I don't feel like people don't add this to their favorites. So Rob, is this one of your favorites yet? Do you need more time with it, or is his other stuff just so good that's gonna hit your top 3 before this one?
You know what? I've watched Lock, Stock a couple of times. I watched Snatch a couple of times. I mean, Brad Pitt was trying to do his to break into like more of the indie scene at the time. That was really popular around the 2000 mark. All these actors trying to go in indie with their movies and stuff. I gotta say though that like those movies were made on a shoestring budget, and he did a fantastic job. But this just looks gorgeous. Like visually, the cinematography of it, the color saturate, like the whole thing just pops for me. And I have to say that out of all of his movies, I would likely watch this one over and over again. I really love the dialogue between the characters. So this might just be my favorite Guy Ritchie movie. I can tell you it's not Sherlock Holmes or Sherlock Holmes 2.
What about The Man from U.N.C.L.E.?
I know. I see it now. I knew that that's going to be yours when we saw the poster.
No, that's not me. I'm just saying that's your movie, Rob. That's with your boy.
I disavow Arnie Hammer now after allegations of eating people in a barbecue sauce. But I do like
Henry
Man
Cavill,
from U.N.C.L.E.
You're Superman.
It is.
Well.
I do like The Man from U.N.C.L.E., but I gotta say I really enjoy this movie. The Gentleman is something like I've watched it when it first came out on Netflix this past spring or whatever. I watched it today, and I could throw it on again. I really
a lot of those in the chat with us have watched it multiple times before that they were like, oh, I'm firing it up again, and I'm like, yeah, I almost got in a second viewing, but I didn't quite get there. Stu, is this your favorite Guy Ritchie movie, or is it in the running for favorite? Or is it clearly not?
It's not my favorite.
Yeah, it's okay. Aladdin. Aladdin's your favorite.
No, of course it's swept away, Rob. Let's not forget that movie with Madonna.
Yeah.
Jeez, Rob. No, my favorite is it's got to be Snatch. Just the fact that he was, like we talked about budget, done for $10 million. Brad Pitt, like Jason Statham, Lenny James, like Dennis Ferreira, like so many, Vinnie Jones, like that's kind of his big hit after Lock, Stock, and it is as frantic and as kinetic energy that he kind of lost. I talked about it, Rob, the other day. He had that Lock, Stock, and then Snatch, and then all of a sudden he started going down with all these movies, and then this is kind of going back up. The fact that he, went back to something he felt comfortable with The Gentleman, like this gangster trilogy, speaks to kind of. I guess if you look at the Star Wars trilogy, it's the one I picked as Empire. So that's the one where it had the most interesting characters. And yeah, to Rob's point, yeah, it's shot very well, but that's 2019 technology. They're using, the red eye 4K cameras and all these things. And, even he alludes to the fact that, in that scene with Hugh Grant, it's like, oh, we're going to talk about 18 millimeter and like the chemicals. Yeah. Like he understands that that was something that he had before, and only Tarantino's crazy enough to go back to it. So, but yeah, there's many scenes in that movie that you find it, and Brad Pitt, even though he's trying his best, the Cockney accent and all the gypsy stuff and all the stuff, things are happening. It's still a fun watch. It's of its time, and there's a lot of fun actors in it. Yeah, I definitely say Snatch is the one.
It's kind of grittier. Yeah, I remember after seeing that, I think Snatch was the first one I saw because everyone kept recommending it.
Yep.
And once you fire up that first scene with the jewel heist, you're hooked. You're watching the rest of the movie once that scene fires up, and you're like, "What's going on here?" And then they're just having this dialogue. And I remember going back and watching Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels, and it was maybe too much of I guess the British or whatever you want to call it style. It wasn't quite as accessible as Snatch. So my favorite Guy Ritchie movie is definitely King Arthur with Charlie. No, I'm just joking. It's Snatch, 100%.
Oh okay. I thought maybe of course. I actually thought you were going to pick Rock and Rolla. I actually thought that.
Rock and Rolla is also another very good movie that I almost forgot about. I think I do have that on Blu-ray as well.
That's with Gerard Butler.
Yeah, Gerard Butler. But
Jerry
I think
B and Mark Strong,
Idris Elba.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Idris Elba, Tom Hardy's in that movie,
and
like,
Luda.
Oh man,
Luda's in it. Yeah,
we have to rewatch that.
Lady Newton, like Jeremy Piven, Ludacris, Gemma Arterton. Like, there's a ton of people in this movie in Rock and Roll. I was also surprised that you were in it too. That was not your movie, but
no. At Snatch, for some reason, I just watched it so many times. All those characters, I love them. the whole I forgot who the fat guy who they like treat like a bunny, and he's like driving the car, and he like smashes into the car behind him, and he's like, I didn't see it coming. He's like, where? What do you mean you didn't see it coming? It came from the rear. When you reverse, things come from the back and stuff like that. And then he's like, and then they're like, yeah, I didn't see it. I didn't get out the binoculars and all that stuff. Like Smash is just so good. So a lot of shout outs in the chat. It looks like a lot of people are actually tossed up. I was surprised. I didn't know if the Gentleman was going to sit quite as high as I thought. Everyone was unanimously going to choose Snatch, but it's pretty good. Look at Rob, like waiting for the joke there about Snatch. Go for it, Rob. No,
no, I'm not.
He's out.
No. I'll let you be the one that keeps poking at the
There you got it. You did it. There you go.
Yeah, but you know, and Benicio del Toro shows up again in that Snatch 2 and has some memorable scenes. So they're you know, Guy Ritchie does in each movie have a memorable scene for sure. So
yeah. Boris the Bullet Dodger, all those guys, they're so good. I don't know. I feel like those characters are slightly better than these characters, or more memorable. But give it time. Maybe this one. Sorry, Rob. I keep cutting you off. Go ahead.
That's okay, buddy. Do you guys think though that Guy Ritchie doesn't get the respect that maybe he deserves? Do you think marrying and I know this sounds stupid, but do you think marrying Madonna so like at the beginning of his career after he hit those two with Lock, Stock, and then Snatch, and he gets into with Madonna? Do you think that kind of derailed a little bit of his career?
No, man, you married for love. That's what it is.
No, but you know what? But I think though that I don't think he gets the type of respect that I think he probably deserves. I think he got caught up in that. I think.
But we talked about with James Gunn the other day. Sometimes it takes a while for a director to find its footing, to find its voice, and he after Snatch tried something different. Swept Away was the next movie he did, and then he did Revolver and Rock and Rolla and Sherlock Holmes. Like he's kind of got the experience, worked on super big budget movies, and he recognizes maybe after King Arthur, that's not for me. Like both King Arthur and Man from U.N.C.L.E. were kind of bombs for him. So maybe he goes back to this. Although Aladdin made $1 billion, so he was back on the good graces of Disney. So it's really hard.
But if you look at the Sherlock Holmes, the 2 movies he did there, and then he does, what do you call it? The Man from U.N.C.L.E., and then he does King Arthur. They're filmed Aladdin. They're very similar. Those 4 movies in their style, right? Yeah. But you don't see that slow-mo type of stuff really with some of his other. Like he's very eclectic, I guess, in how he does things. Like he doesn't keep to the same tricks. Like, he
all his movies since Sherlock Holmes have made money. Maybe they haven't broken the bank as he wanted to, because Man from U.N.C.L.E. made back its budget. King Arthur, Aladdin, of course, made $1 billion.
They're profitable. Fine. It's the same as Kevin Smith, right? Like Kevin Smith movies may not make billions of dollars, but they're profitable at the end of the day. They don't lose money. They may not be widely acceptable, but they never lose money. In fact, they usually make money on their distribution, on their home video sales and everything else like that. So I kind of think I agree with you. Like Aladdin being the outlier, these movies they may be critical bombs, or they may not make as much money as they anticipated, but they don't lose money.
Yeah. And look at your point. He's kind of found his wheelhouse, so he's going back to this. Wrath of Man was a very particular movie. I'm excited to see what happens with Five Eyes, this weird spy movie where somehow Jason Statham's convinced by 5 government agencies to stop the sale of a nuclear device. So that should be fun.
Has that been announced?
Yeah, it's post-production right now. It's Audrey Plaza, Hugh Grant, Jason Statham.
It's not listed on his IMDb.
It's on the wiki page. So
then if it's on wiki.
Official.
You want to know why? On IMDb it's listed as the unnamed Guy Ritchie film. That's why. Yeah. So maybe he'll be changing the title.
Yeah. It's based off the actual Five Eye organization, which apparently is a real thing. But I off the top of my head, it's like Canada, US, Britain, Australia. It's like these weird five countries working together. So
yeah. Mostly in the Commonwealth, except for the US. Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Cool.
So cool. Yeah, I think that does it for those. And Lewis brings up a good point here. We should just do a ton of Guy Ritchie movies for the next few months. I don't think we have enough time to do that, but I think Rob, do we want to do one more?
Yeah, I think we want to do one more. One came out. This was on your like must watch list for the summer, and then you got scared at the reviews in May and you bailed on it. But lo and behold, it is now on. Is it Netflix or
it is Netflix? I watched it.
It's on Netflix, and it is starring Jason Statham again, and that is Wrath of Man. So I think that's going to be our homework for next week, John.
Yeah, I think some of the people in the chat might have watched it already because it has it on. It is on Netflix, but I haven't watched it.
No, neither have I.
Rob hasn't watched it. Stu has watched it.
I've watched it. Yeah, I watched it when it wasn't on Netflix. You guys are slow.
They didn't make it. Theaters weren't open over here, Stu. Come on. But anyways,
it was a digital release.
Digital release. There's a digital premiere.
John and I have been busy playing Fortnite. All right, we haven't had time to watch everything. Do you know how much TV and movies I do watch in a week? It's disgusting, and I still manage to throw in video games and reading.
I'm waiting for Rob to watch. And those in the chat can say, I'm waiting for Rob to watch Gravity Falls. That's my big list for him to watch with his kids on Disney Plus. It's like I got to be done. It's perfect, Rob, for you. And then the other one, because it's kind of like Erie, Indiana. And then the other one I'm waiting for Rob to catch up on is in Ted Lasso. So I'm just, there are things you got to do, Rob, and I'm just ahead of you. I'm clearing the pathway to let you know.
Thanks,
you will love Gravity Falls. You just got to watch it with your daughter. Maybe your son won't care, but it's great. It's super fun. You'll love it. It's on Disney Plus.
Well, I tell you what, I'm not going to watch any John Stamos basketball game show. It's
on my list. Don't worry, I'll get to it. Don't worry.
Why you gotta hate on Big Shot?
It was worth it. So come on.
Is Mighty Ducks worth it, Lauren Graham?
It's great. It's great. Yeah. It's really good. Yeah,
I tried it. I even tried the new Turner and Hooch. But yeah. I don't know.
You watched Turner and Hooch? Ooh.
I watched the first episode, but yeah, I don't think I'm going to continue. So
Mighty Ducks was great, especially when they brought back some of the old Mighty Ducks. Spoiler alert! But it was good.
Well, definitely not the goalie because that guy's in rehab right now.
He's getting better. But
John, you good with that? Wrath of Man, Wrath of John.
Yeah, I'll give it a try. We'll see, especially since we're on a Guy Ritchie kick. But if we are unsatisfied with this movie, does that mean we have to follow it up with another good Guy Ritchie movie?
No, we'll see what happens. I think Lewis wants us to talk about Waterworld or The Postman, one of my two favorite movies of all time. Why are you slandering Waterworld? Waterworld was great.
Is Waterworld worth a rewatch? I saw it in theaters. I saw it in theaters. I saw it in theaters and came out. And I remember thinking that wasn't so bad, and then it got demolished.
Lewis, when was the last time you watched Waterworld, bro? Come on.
Well, do you know why? I remember the controversy when people were in the news and the newspapers were going mental. The fact that this movie is going to hit the $100 million mark for production.
Yeah,
it was like a controversy. Like there was there wasn't the internet back then in terms of like getting. People, there was no Twitter. It was, you'd be watching the news in your 6 o'clock, your 11 o'clock news. And this was like one of their stories. It wasn't even in the entertainment section. It was like, massive blockbuster reaching close to 100 million, the only movie to ever like hit that for production. And it was like a huge, people were like, oh, this is screwed. Kevin Costner's destroyed. What is he doing? So, and then we saw it and, whatever. I saw it a few times. I haven't seen it in maybe 20 years. I don't.
Yeah. I haven't seen it since theater. So
yeah, we're gonna find out.
That would be fun.
It's not bad, man.
That might be interesting. Bad. But if we're doing Kevin Costner, I feel like we should watch The Bodyguard. No.
What? No.
Yeah, we gotta talk about Kevin Costner movies.
No. Go watch Yellowstone. That's all you need.
No, I'm saying he's on a new show, right? Called Yellowstone. It looks pretty good.
It's a slog, but
no, it's not. Are you kidding me? It's a great.
You just got to get through the first couple episodes. It's not. You said it already. It takes a little bit of time to get past.
It's a slow burn. It's a slow burn, and then once you get into it, you're like, wow. Yeah.
If you're gonna do Kevin, seriously, we can make John watch another baseball movie if we're gonna do Kevin Costner movies.
No.
Are we gonna do?
Right, next week is.
Field of Dreams? Can we do Field of Dreams? That one's a great
Next week is Wrath of Man. All right. Next week is Wrath
Bull
of
Durham?
Man.
Bull Durham? That's not a baseball.
I think we already stated if we're doing another sports thing, it has to be soccer themed. I think that's what we stated earlier. But yeah, so Wrath of Man.
There's the other baseball movie that he was in that was directed by not Bull Durham. There's the trilogy. There's Bull Durham, the one who's pitching the perfect game. For the love of the game.
For the love of the game.
Yes, that was directed by Sam Raimi's.
Yes,
And
that was
then-
actually really good.
That's a really good movie. It's a really good
Yeah.
one where he's like,
But I feel we're getting into a territory, guys, where we're going to have to start reviewing James Bond movies because for the love of God, No Time to Die or whatever better than be fucking coming out in the next few weeks.
dude,
or I'm gonna
let's
lose
let's
my
let's
shit.
go with a bang. Go with my favorite ones. Go Skyfall, man. Let's go back to Skyfall. That's the best Bond movie.
No, I
100%.
wouldn't say
Is
that.
is,
No.
is Skyfall Daniel
No!
Craig?
Yeah,
It is. Skyfall's not
Yeah.
the best Bond movie of all 25.
I love it the most.
I haven't
think
seen it.
You talk about
haven't seen
just like what you said about the gentleman. Beautifully shot, wonderful aesthetics,
gorgeous.
like the colors pop, the blues, the reds of all this, like the everything that happens in that movie. It's like you could just screen cap that and put it on a poster in your house. And you'd be like, wow, where'd you get that from? Oh, it's from Skyfall. Like it's just a beautifully shot
It is.
movie.
It is, but it's not the best James Bond movie. Like,
What's the
you
best
know
James
what?
Bond movie?
I would almost say On Her Majesty's Secret Service may be
Come on,
maybe
Come
one of the yes,
on.
it's in the top 3.
Gord. I know you say GoldenEye, and we
No.
both were of the same age where we saw that, but it's not good. Come on,
No.
we watched it. It's bad,
I'm
man.
invincible. Yeah,
Yeah,
no.
like this. Oh man, I love GoldenEye. It has a special place in my heart playing N64 on the 4 split screen, but it's not a good movie. Like it's really rough. GoldenEye, the movie itself. I think we just wrapped up. Yeah, but there you go. So bad it's amazing. So that's
You know
that's
what
not
I
what you
think we have
want.
to do, and it won't be part of this show, but maybe we need to do something where we actually watch and review all 25 movies. I don't know who's up. I'm up for that.
I just need to know. Clearly, Sarah and I have the same taste. I just need to know
Whoever
what movie that
wants to
Sarah likes.
sign up
That's all
for
I need
James
to know.
Bond
Right now. What do
20
you like,
movie
Sarah?
marathon.
I would, yeah. I think that's what I think we do. I think Stu, that's what we do, man. We get, yeah. I'm down for that. I watch them any day of the week. So I did 24, but right before the last one, before Spectre came out, I watched all 24 in about 5 weeks or so. So
Okay, if anyone wants to sign up for that, it's certainly not me. I don't know if Rob wants to go back and forth with Andre on that one either, because once you hit the Daniel Craig era, it's going to be kind of
He's out.
nasty.
He hasn't watched any of them, so he can't say anything.
He's watched them. I'm pretty sure he's
No,
watched them.
I don't think he's watched any of them. He's watched.
I've seen only Casino Royale and the one that followed it. Although I don't remember anything from the one that followed it, because everything I remember is from Casino Royale. So I haven't watched anything else.
And that's what happened. And then there was Skyfall.
Is there one after Skyfall?
Yes, there is.
yeah, Spectre.
Spectre.
Okay, so those
What's
two
David
I do
Bautista?
have to watch. So those two I do have to watch before the new one comes out. So if you want to do those two, Rob, I'll do those two. I'm not hell no am I doing 20.
Wait, you're gonna do Skyfall and Spectre?
I could do Skyfall and Spectre. I haven't seen them. Do you think they're going to be integral to the
haven't
movie?
seen Skyfall. Yeah, Skyfall's a good one.
Yeah.
Skyfall's the change of M, man. So, all right, we're talking this out, man.
Wrath of Man,
Yeah.
Wrath of Man next week, and maybe we'll have to do those double James Bond hits.
Yeah. I would love to watch Hardball with Keanu Reeves or The Replacements. I would definitely watch The Replacements, but like I said, I think we have to do a soccer movie, and it's probably going to be
Victory.
We're probably going to be She's the Man. But
we'll find Victory.
How about Ladybugs? Ladybugs with Rodney Dangerfield. All right, you get. All I know is I got a lot of balls.
Yikes.
Anyways, okay. Thank you everyone for sticking with us that long. Yeah, Sarah knows what I'm talking about. She's the man, Amanda Bynes, back in the day. Dresses like a boy to be on the boys soccer team. Anyways,
that's Ladybugs.
That's Ladybugs.
Is it the same plot?
Yeah.
You dress like a girl to be on the girls' team. Yeah.
Well, maybe She's the Man is a redux of that movie, and we should watch and find out the differences. Anyways.
That will require you to watch Ladybugs. I can tell you right now.
Well, one of you watches Ladybugs and watch the other one and tells us the difference. That's why.
I think
That's how you cheat on your homework.
I think that's Katherine Heigl too. Young Katherine Heigl is in that movie. Yeah.
1992. Jonathan Brandis, unfortunately, had passed away. I think from a drug
R.I.P.
overdose, right?
We talked about this before. R.I.P.
Yeah.
But
I mean, Jack
Anyways,
we
we kept you guys all long enough. Thank you very much for tuning in. If you didn't check out our Suicide Squad review, that is up featuring Stu, Rob, Jimmy, and Umar. It was a lot of fun. And then we also did a Fast 9 review on the Saturday. That was me, kind of Rob, Stu and Andre. Rob just dipped out every once in a while when he felt like it. And then Andre
It was
does have
Andre kept pulling my plug.
and then Andre does have an interview with Elsewhere Media coming up on Wednesday. So two good friends of the shop, George and Renee. Stu just dropped out and he just screws up my entire. I can't see him; he's gone. But thank you very much, folks. We will catch you on the next one, right, Rob and Stu?
Yeah,
thank you.
for sure.
Yeah.
So Wrath of Man next week. Yeah.
Yep.
Peace out,
Good to
guys.
see you.
Yep.
See you guys.